Our story begins in 2022. Anne is on the phone with emergency services, panic in her voice as she screams for someone to save her husband, Ty. Blood is everywhere. Cut to the next day, the funeral. We learn that Ty's life was ended by a murderer. Standing beside Anne is their daughter, Sayob, who isn't even 6 years old yet, dressed in black and looking lost. Anne is immediately summoned for questioning. The detectives observing from outside the interrogation room are unsettled. Anne is smiling. She remains eerily calm and composed, an expression that feels completely wrong for a grieving widow. Anne begins her statement. She explains that Ty was an only child who lost his parents in high school, and she lost her own parents very young as well. As the detective presses her about the art studio where Ty's body was found, Anne reveals that they are both painters, and she works as an art teacher at a high school. Throughout the questioning, she sketches on a pad with total indifference. She claims that on the night of the crime, she had just returned home and saw someone wearing a mask leaving the studio. She didn't find it suspicious at the time because people frequently come and go from there. The detective drops a bombshell. On the night of the murder, Ty had canceled all his appointments and specifically told a certain female student not to come. Anne doesn't flinch. She explains that she and Ty had agreed to spend that night together to reconnect, as they had been distant since Siob's birth. The detective presents a scarf found at the crime scene. Anne identifies it as belonging to the student the detective just mentioned. When the detective implies an affair, Anne waves it off, claiming the girl simply respects Ty as a mentor. Her answers are unconvincing, fueling the detective's suspicion. He points to the drawing she's been working on, asking if it's the student. Anne replies coldly, "No, that's the person I saw leaving the studio." During a break, the detective notices bruises on Anne's hand. He theorizes she killed her husband and the bruises are from his self-defense. Anne dismisses this instantly, claiming she bruises easily and marks take a long time to fade. Anne is held at the station for a long time, and the detectives are stuck. They call in prosecutor Seong. He briefs himself on the case and, upon seeing Anne's photo, is immediately struck by the look in her eyes. Despite the detective's suspicions, Seong orders her release, citing a lack of legal grounds to hold her. He seems to know exactly what he's doing. As she leaves, he takes personal charge of the case. Seong begins to stalk Anne. He watches her buy alcohol and assumes she's living it up. He tails her car and sees her freshening up and spraying perfume, convincing himself she's meeting a lover. His theory collapses when she pulls up to a school to pick up her daughter. The alcohol, it turns out, is just for her to drink alone at home. Just as Seong starts to lose interest, his suspicion reignites when he sees Anne immediately donating Ty's belongings to charity. The next day, he watches a video online showing Anne with her students. She appears gentle and beloved, making it hard to reconcile her with the image of a cold-blooded killer. Then, a call from the detective changes everything. The fingerprints around the body were wiped clean using a specific chemical found in art studios. Seong rushes to Anne's office at the school. He searches her desk and finds a receipt for 10 bottles of that exact chemical. Anne catches him in the act, but he smoothly lies, pretending to be a parent looking for his child. Back at the station, the police bring in the female student for questioning. Finding no breakthrough, Seong orders them to summon Anne as well. He wants to observe the interaction between the wife and the student from a distance. Anne confronts the girl, asking, "Why did you come to the studio that night when he sent you multiple messages telling you not to?" She asks if the girl loved him and if the feeling was mutual. The girl lowers her head and breaks down in tears. That silence is all the confirmation Anne needs. Her husband was pushing her away because he had a replacement. Seong goes to the crime scene himself to reconstruct the event. He realizes the murder weapon was swapped. Suddenly, the police inform Anne that the student has a solid alibi and couldn't be the killer. When Anne asks who the culprit is, they arrest her. In the interrogation room, Seong faces Anne. He walks her through his reconstruction of the crime, speaking as if he were there. "You entered the house, ready to talk calmly and fix your marriage," he says, leaning in. "But then, you walked in and saw him in a compromising position. He's putting on his shirt, a woman's scarf lying carelessly beside him, and he's clearly stumbling, drunk out of his mind." Seong leans in, his voice cutting like a knife. "You hit him on the head with the bottle you were holding. Then, while he was down, you finished him off, stabbing him in the neck with a sculpting tool. You used the chemical solvent to wipe your fingerprints, then swapped the murder weapon with another tool." Anne tries to interrupt, but Seong drops the hammer. "We found the original weapon. It has your prints all over it." Anne protests desperately. "Of course my prints are on it. It's a tool from my studio. I use it to sculpt every day. Someone framed me." Seong ignores her pleas. "And that sketch you made? The masked figure? He scoffs. We checked the security cameras, Mrs. Ann. No one matching that description left the studio. No one came out at all. He pulls out a file, slamming it on the table. 19 years ago, when you were in the orphanage, you had a record for violence. You have a history of aggression. So tell me, which one is the real you, the gentle art teacher, or the cold-blooded killer? Anne is processed and transferred to a holding cell with other inmates. She lies on the cold floor, her heart aching for her daughter, Seo. Is she okay? Who is taking care of her? The next day, her court-appointed lawyer visits, but instead of support, she finds doubt. He clearly doesn't believe her innocence. Frustrated and overwhelmed by his lack of faith, Anne lashes out in a fit of rage, scratching her own arm in despair. Seong watches the scene from behind the glass, unmoved. She's putting on a show, he thinks. Flashback to the night of the murder. Anne is on the phone with Tai, her voice full of excitement. I'm coming over early, she says, genuinely happy to see him. When she arrives at the studio, she spots a figure leaving, masked, androgynous, just like she drew. Terrified, she hides until the figure passes. She rushes inside only to find Tai's body on the floor. The shock is so intense that the bottle of wine slips from her hand and shatters. Cut to another location. Two bodies lie dead. A couple. Sitting nearby is a young woman, watching them take their last breaths with chilling indifference. Her eyes are glued to the TV screen, which shows news footage of Anne being transferred from court, screaming her innocence. The girl is wearing a wig, clearly trying to disguise her identity. In court, a video is played showing a reenactment of the crime. We see Anne trying to act out the murder. Flashback to her lawyer's advice. Confess. Say you did it because of the affair. We can argue for a lighter sentence based on a crime of passion. Anne tries to follow the script, lifting the weapon, but as she looks down, the reality of losing her husband hits her. She breaks character, dropping the tool. No, I didn't do it. I didn't kill him. Please, help me. She sobs, begging the officers. Back in the present, Anne stands firm in court. I am innocent. I did not kill my husband. But the verdict comes down. Guilty. Prosecutor Seong smirks, satisfied with his victory. Meanwhile, at the scene of the double homicide, the killer, the girl from earlier, waits patiently. She wants the police to catch her. When they arrive, she surrenders without a fight. We learn her name is Uni. She confesses everything with a disturbing calm. She worked at the couple's clinic, claiming they treated her poorly, so she decided to take revenge. She proudly admits it was premeditated. The detective asks about the sharp object found on her. Did you hurt anyone with this? Uni replies with a creepy smile. Not yet. The detectives are terrified. This is a textbook psychopath. Uni is sent for a psychiatric evaluation. She mocks the doctor, tearing apart his methods. You're so old-fashioned, she sneers. She insists she isn't crazy, but she gives him exactly what he wants to hear, describing the thrill of watching her victims die like fish flopping on a grill. Back in prison, Anne receives a visitor, her best friend. Anne is devastated, having received a life sentence, though appeals are pending. She immediately asks about Seob. Her friend bursts into tears and confesses the unthinkable. My son found out you're a murderer. He said Seob might turn out like you. I couldn't keep her. I sent her to an orphanage. Anne is paralyzed with shock. Her friend leaves, sobbing apologies. Anne returns to her cell, broken. A bully inmate starts picking on her, taunting her. Anne snaps. She charges at the bully with all her might. Cut to later. We realize Anne didn't hurt the bully. She hurt herself. Uni is being transferred to the same prison. As she walks down the hall, she sees Anne being carried out on a stretcher, her head bleeding from a self-inflicted wound. Uni stares at her, recognizing the woman from the news. Uni enters the general population cell. Immediately, the cell boss tries to establish dominance, beating Uni up. Uni takes the hits passively, looking weak. Then, in a split second, she snaps. She pounces on the boss like a wild animal, pinning her down. Touch me again, and I'll slice your throat, she whispers. She doesn't let go until the alarm blares. Uni is thrown into solitary confinement, but the moment the door shuts, she starts screaming and banging on the walls, claiming she has a phobia of spiderwebs. The guard, annoyed, moves her to another cell. Once inside the new cell, Uni's demeanor changes instantly. She spots a spider and smiles, greeting it like an old friend. The phobia was a lie. It was all part of her plan. She maneuvered herself into the cell right next to Anne's. Uni approaches the wall. It's supposed to be soundproof, but she knows a trick. She manages to communicate with Anne on the other side. I can make your entire case disappear, Uni whispers through the wall, but in exchange, you have to kill someone for me. You see, when I was busy with my project. I missed one. I took care of 2 of them, but the 3rd one got away. So, I would really appreciate it if you could finish the job for me. Uni whispers this through the wall with chilling casualness. She acknowledges that Anne probably doesn't trust her, but she promises a surprise. She is going to take the fall for Anne's entire case. She gives Anne one instruction. When you get back to the general population, check the newspapers for news about my crimes. Anne follows the advice. As she reads about Uni's horrific deeds, a guard informs her that her lawyer has dropped her case. Anne immediately recalls Uni's advice. Hire a new, young, passionate lawyer who has the patience to wait for her name to be cleared. In Uni's trial, amidst the horror of her double homicide, she asks to confess to an additional crime. She calmly announces that she killed another man recently. The courtroom erupts in chaos. Uni claims responsibility for Ty's murder. Back in her cell, Anne watches the news in disbelief. Reports of her innocence are spreading like wildfire now that Uni has confessed. Later, in the prison yard during a rainstorm, Anne and Uni cross paths. Anne freezes, seeing Uni in this lighting. Standing in the rain, she realizes Uni's silhouette is an exact match for the intruder she saw on the night of the murder. Uni simply smiles and calls out, "Good luck, but don't forget our deal." Prosecutor Seong is being chewed out by his superior. The boss is furious that Seong imprisoned an innocent woman, especially now that Uni has confessed. Seong stands his ground, seething with frustration. He is absolutely certain he made no mistake in collecting the evidence. He vows to prove Uni is lying. Anne and Uni are transported in the same van. Anne remembers a conversation where Uni asked her to imagine what she would do to the real killer. Anne lets the rage take over. She lunges at Uni, biting deep into her neck. Uni is choking, her life fading, yet her expression remains terrifyingly calm. The security footage of the attack reaches Seong. The narrative is that Anne is attacking the real killer who ruined her life, but Seong isn't buying it. He suspects collusion. He decides to interrogate Uni personally. He tries to trip her up on the details, but it backfires. Uni has memorized every single step. She describes the outfit Anne said the killer wore. When Seong tries to trick her by saying, "So you stabbed him in the neck immediately?" Uni corrects him. "No, I hit him on the head first." She even recites the exact number of blows. To top it off, she draws a diagram of the crime scene with such precision that it leaves Seong speechless. How can there be no mistakes? Seong's boss throws the case files in his face. "You went there to prove she was lying, and instead, you just made her confession look more credible." Desperate to end the debate, Seong gets a warrant to inspect the prison cells. He needs to know how they communicated. The guards insist the cells are soundproof. Seong orders a test. At first, they hear nothing, but another inmate tips them off, saying she sometimes hears her neighbors. Seong tests it himself and finally finds a spot where sound travels. He tears down the insulation, looking for a hole between cells 10 and 11. He finds nothing. The wall is solid. Flashback to the past. We see Uni carefully patching the small hole she had made, covering her tracks perfectly. In the present, Seong orders a strip search of both women. The guards protest, citing human rights violations, but he forces the issue. They find nothing. Back in her cell, Uni touches the bandage on her neck. She recalls asking Anne, "What would you do if you met the killer?" And Anne replying, "I'd chew his neck off." Uni smiles, peeling off the bandage to reveal the healing bite mark. It was all part of the script. Meanwhile, Anne gets her new lawyer, a young man with a face full of passion and eagerness, just as she wanted. Seong is on the verge of a breakdown. In a last-ditch effort, he puts Uni on a polygraph, but Uni is a master of control. She manipulates her own physiological responses. Seong loses his temper, screaming at her, "You made a deal with Anne, didn't you? You didn't kill her husband." Uni throws her head back and laughs maniacally. Her erratic behavior causes the machine to error out. The news officially declares Anne innocent. The anchor delivers a tear-jerking monologue about how society failed this poor mother, separating her from her child. Anne's friend watches from home, sobbing in guilt for abandoning her. Anne walks out of prison a free woman. Her new lawyer is waiting for her, holding Seob's hand. Anne ignores the swarm of reporters. She runs straight to her daughter, burying her face in Seob's embrace. She finds safety in that hug, but as she holds her child, she knows she has made a deal with the devil, and the price for this hug is going to be very high. Anne arrives home to find her front door covered in supportive notes from neighbors. Her daughter, Seob, is delighted by the warm welcome. Her lawyer is incredibly helpful, smoothing the transition. However, reality sets in quickly. A probation officer arrives and clamps a tracking device onto Anne's ankle. She issues a strict warning. Anne must never remove it, and she is restricted to specific zones. If any trouble or crime occurs near her location, she will be the immediate suspect. Alone in the house, Anne starts hallucinating, seeing Ty there with her, and grief washes over her. Back in prison, Uni puts on a desperate act. She begs the guard for painkillers, pleading and promising to swallow them right in front of her. The guard eventually relents. Meanwhile, Anne spends quality time with Siob, though it's clear the child is traumatized and struggling to return to normal. At bedtime, there is a knock at the door. It's Anne's best friend, sobbing. Anne, feeling the weight of betrayal, doesn't hesitate. She slaps her friend across the face. The friend accepts the blow without complaint. She reveals she brought Anne's favorite food. Through her tears, Anne asks, "Did you bring pickles?" The tension breaks, and they hug, reconciling over the meal. Anne goes to her room, feeling a moment of happiness, but Uni's threat pierces her mind. Kill the third target, or Uni will recant her confession and send Anne back to prison for life. Anne immediately gets to work, researching the boy Uni wants dead. She discovers he is a student with a history of blackmail charges. In prison, Uni suffers from nightmares about her past, hinting at a history of severe injustice and abuse. Anne grows anxious. She asks her lawyer what would happen if the real killer changed their testimony. The lawyer shuts down the thought, explaining that without the confession, there is no evidence, and everything would revert to the original verdict. We then see Uni in her cell, revealing that she didn't swallow the painkillers. She is hoarding them. Prosecutor Seong re-enters Anne's life. He meets her at a restaurant trying to make conversation, but he reminds her that to him, she is still a suspect. Anne looks at him with sadness and disdain, telling him, "You don't care about the truth. You just want to prove you weren't wrong." A famous, high-profile lawyer volunteers to defend Uni pro bono, driven by neither money nor fame. Uni agrees on one condition. He must deliver a letter to Anne. Anne receives the letter but refuses to open it in front of the lawyer. Later, at home, she reads it. On the surface, it looks like a friendly check-in, but Anne decodes the hidden threat. Uni is daring her to come to court to hear the truth if she doesn't follow through. We see that someone is stalking Anne, taking photos of her in various situations. She is being watched, though the stalker's identity remains a mystery. Anne tries to carry out the mission. She goes to the boy's location and stabs him in the neck, but she wakes up. It was a dream. She wakes again to find Siob bleeding and the boy standing at her bedroom door. Another nightmare. She wakes up for real, terrified, and rushes to check on her daughter, who is safe. But then, something real happens. Anne sees a shadow moving outside her house. She investigates and spots a figure fleeing. She activates her ankle monitor to alert the authorities and chases after him. She runs through dark streets and alleyways. The figure matches the description of the intruder from the night of Ty's murder. Anne runs with everything she has. Suddenly, a motorcycle slams into her, knocking her down. She refuses to give up and tries to keep running, but her body fails her. The masked figure stops and stares directly into her eyes. Anne remembers Uni's warning to ignore everything she sees outside. She begins to suspect that this figure might actually be Uni. At the prison, guards do a head count. Uni is missing. They turn the facility upside down. The police finally arrive at Anne's location. Anne points frantically at the fleeing figure, screaming, "He's over there! That's the man who killed my husband." But the police ignore her. They tackle Anne aggressively, arresting her for violating her parole and causing a disturbance. Back at the prison, a massive, urgent search is underway. Uni has vanished into thin air. To make matters worse, a large section of the security camera footage is corrupted or missing. Anne's lawyer gets a call from the probation officer. He storms into the police station wearing his pajamas, furious at the officers for manhandling his client. He defends Anne, showing them video footage of the incident, footage provided, surprisingly, by Uni's lawyer. He points out that Anne has a leg injury from being hit by a motorcycle and that she begged them to catch the real suspect, whom they let escape. The police officer, realizing his mistake, awkwardly apologizes and leaves. Anne returns home. She plays with Siob, trying to normalize their life, and playfully sticks a sticker on her ankle monitor. The lawyer rushes in and calms Anne down, assuring her it's a minor violation. But unfortunately, her probation terms will be stricter. They warn her, any more slip-ups, and the consequences will be severe. Finally, the prison authorities locate Uni. She's in the infirmary, supposedly suffering from a spiderweb phobia. We know it's complete nonsense, a strategic move, but of course, we're not snitching. Meanwhile, Anne tries to sketch the face of the intruder she saw that night, desperately trying to match the features to Uni. She draws and discards page after page, frustrated. How could Uni have gotten out of prison? Uni's words echo in her mind. Not everything you see is real, followed by the chilling warning to respect their deal or see true madness unleashed. Uni returns to the general population cell where she is greeted like a returning hero. The other inmates salute her with respect and fear. Prosecutor Seong obsessively reviews the surveillance footage from the night of Anne's arrest. He notices something crucial. Anne was looking directly at the masked figure and screaming, "Arrest him! He killed my husband." It clicks. Anne doesn't believe Uni is the real killer. Seong realizes with sinking dread that he may have truly wronged Anne. The day of the trial arrives. Uni scans the courtroom. Her lawyer leans in and whispers, "Anne is in the upper gallery." Uni looks at him, surprised. "How did you know I was looking for her?" The lawyer smirks, citing his brilliance. He saw Anne enter and knew about the letter Uni sent. "You certainly aren't looking for the victims' families," he quips. We notice a camera pointed directly at Uni's face. She seizes the moment while her lawyer is speaking. She looks straight into the lens and mouths words clearly intended for Anne. "There is no time left. You have to move now." Seong catches this silent communication. He stands up in the middle of the court, interrupts the proceedings, and alerts the judge. He demands the camera footage be played back. Uni, unfazed and bold as ever, grabs the microphone and says aloud, "There is no time left. Move. Now." Before chaos ensues, Uni smoothly covers her tracks. She claims she was talking to her own life, saying time is running out and she needs to embrace her fate before her secrets are exposed. It's a flimsy excuse, but it holds. As she is escorted out to be returned to prison, Uni pauses and locks eyes with Anne. Seong witnesses this intense stare down. He senses Uni has some kind of leverage over Anne, a blackmail hold, but he has no idea how to break it or save Anne from it. Anne decides she's had enough of the anxiety. She resolves to take serious action and end this torment. She starts tailing the boy again. She watches him enter school with his grandfather, only to sneak out moments later to play video games at an arcade. He's a total delinquent, skipping school, playing games, and blackmailing people. A real winner. The next day, Anne has an appointment with her probation officer. As she leaves the office, she spots the boy getting into the elevator with her. This is her chance. She follows him out, heart pounding, ready to strike. But at the last second, his grandfather's car pulls up and honks. The boy jumps in, and the opportunity vanishes. Anne doubles back to the probation officer's office. She feigns friendliness, pretending to treat the officer to hot ramyun. Oops, she accidentally spills the hot soup on the officer, forcing her to run to the bathroom to clean up. While the officer is gone, Anne hacks into the computer. She steals more detailed information about the boy, as his file is connected to Uni's case, being a victim's relative. When the officer returns, she assumes Anne was looking at her own file and gently reminds her that she can just ask if she needs anything. Back home, Anne digs into the boy's file and discovers the extent of his depravity. He is accused of filming girls in compromising situations without their consent, blackmail that drove some victims to end their lives. In prison, a heavy-set inmate is being beaten by a group of girls because she is due to be released soon. She can't defend herself and loses consciousness. The guards can't wake her. Uni steps in. She starts pounding on the girl's chest with frantic force. It looks violent, but she's performing CPR to restart her heart. A guard misunderstands, rushes in, and strikes Uni on the head with a baton. Uni wakes up later to find the girl alive and sitting beside her. The girl explains she told everyone Uni saved her life. The guard apologizes to Uni for the misunderstanding. The next day, Uni meets her lawyer. He is puzzled by a watch she is wearing. She dismisses his curiosity, simply saying, "It's very dear to me." Meanwhile, Anne receives a barrage of threatening messages, 4 in a row, from Uni warning that her secret is about to be exposed. Anne is a nervous wreck. She sits with her lawyers, desperate to find a loophole or evidence to convict Uni without relying solely on her confession. But before they can make progress, Anne gets a terrifying call. The school teacher informs her that Seob got lost during a field trip to the mall. Anne rushes to the mall, searching every corner in a panic. Seob is nowhere to be found. Just as Anne feels her soul leaving her body, she sees Seob walking hand in hand with a woman carrying shopping bags. Seob is wearing new clothes and looks happy. Anne runs to them. As she starts thanking the woman for helping her daughter, we realize this woman is the inmate Uni saved. She delivers a message from Uni with a chillingly sweet smile. Uni sends her regards. "She wanted you to know your daughter is in her eyes. No matter what happens, don't worry. It's a direct threat to the child's safety." Anne's lawyer arrives and notices Anne's terror. He tries to question the woman, but she gets scared and tries to leave. Anne quickly interrupts, cutting him off to avoid a scene. "No more scandals, please," she begs. Anne realizes she is out of time. She has to deal with the boy. Tonight, she shows up at the boy's house in the dead of night during a rainstorm, disguised as a gas safety inspector. "Gas inspection," she calls out. It's a bold, if slightly ridiculous, cover. The boy is gaming, distracted. Anne stands behind him. He senses something is wrong and spins around. He sees her trying to hide a weapon and panics. A struggle ensues. Anne pulls out a taser and shocks him, paralyzing him. He falls to the floor. He lies there, seemingly lifeless. To be absolutely sure, Anne raises a sharp tool high above her head. With a scream of effort, she brings it down, plunging it into him. Blood immediately begins to pool beneath his body. Anne moves quickly. She photographs the staged crime scene, capturing the body from angles that suggest a brutal murder, just as Uni requested. Then, she meticulously cleans up, erasing every trace of her presence. Suddenly, her probation officer arrives at the door. Anne had reported her ankle monitor broken, a lie she orchestrated to buy time. The officer senses something is off when no one answers her knocking. Inside, Anne sprints from the back of the apartment. She answers the door breathless, wearing a robe and drying her hair, claiming she was in the shower. She blocks the view, trying to look casual. The officer scans the messy apartment suspiciously but finds nothing incriminating. Once the officer leaves, Anne burns the clothes she wore during the attack to destroy any DNA evidence. She packages the photos and sends them to Uni's lawyer. When the lawyer delivers the envelope to Uni in prison, she stares at the gruesome images. The lawyer asks what she's looking at. In a disturbing move, Uni crumples the photos and shoves them into her mouth, chewing and swallowing them whole to destroy the evidence. Back in her cell, Uni replays the images in her mind. Something feels off. She suspects Anne didn't actually have the guts to go through with it. Meanwhile, the boy's grandfather reports him missing. The police question his school friends, but no one knows anything. The disappearance hits the news, and Anne watches closely. In prison, we learn why Uni was hoarding her painkillers. She takes them all at once in a calculated overdose. As she drifts into consciousness, a young inmate named Yang approaches her. Yang whispers, "I know what happened. He deserved to die. I was with her." Uni is too faded to understand who her refers to. The alarm blares, and Uni is rushed to the hospital. This is Anne's chance. She disguises herself as a doctor and sneaks into Uni's hospital room. She recounts the murder, showing Uni copies of the photos as proof. Uni looks at the pictures and scoffs. She points out a fatal flaw. In every photo, the boy's neck wound looks slightly different. We flash back to the night of the attack. Anne couldn't do it. She raised the weapon but plunged it into her own hand instead. She used her own blood to stage the scene. She woke the boy up, terrified him with the reality of his situation, and warned him that his life was in danger. She then locked him in a storage unit to keep him hidden. Back in the hospital, Anne pleads with Uni, explaining that the boy is just a child and is now living in hiding, terrified enough to never cause trouble again. Uni looks at Anne with cold, dead eyes and drops a bombshell. That boy is already dead. Anne is confused. She rushes to the boy's house to check on him. She expects to find him hiding, but instead, she finds a circus, police cars, ambulances, and reporters. The grandfather spots her in the crowd. Anne panics. She sees her own lawyer there too, but she ignores him, jumps into her car, and speeds away. The boy is dead. His body is in the morgue. Uni was right. Someone else was watching, and when they saw Anne fail, they finished the job. Prosecutor Seong arrives at the crime scene. He is determined to close this case once and for all. He starts digging into the victim's background and uncovers a horrific truth. The boy was a predator. He blackmailed a girl with compromising photos and videos, sending them to everyone in her contacts. The shame drove the girl and her father to commit suicide. Seong connects the dots. The girl who died had a sister. He suspects Uni is that sister. He visits Uni in the hospital and confronts her with his theory. Uni faked her identity to exact revenge, framed Anne for her husband's murder, and then blackmailed Anne into killing the boy to clear her name. It's a brilliant deduction. Uni refuses to answer, but as Seong leaves, she gives him one crumb of truth. Anne didn't kill the boy. Anne is at home, waiting for her friend to drop off Seo. Instead, the grandfather shows up. He pushes his way in, demanding to know why she was at his house earlier. Anne tries to play it cool and makes him tea. As the old man speaks about his grandson's brutal death, his grief turns to rage. He lunges at Anne. She throws the boiling water in his face and runs. He catches her by the leg. Anne grabs a vase and smashes it over his head. She scrambles out of the house and gets into her car. The grandfather, possessing the adrenaline and agility of an action hero, jumps onto the hood of her car to stop her. Anne floors it, throwing him off, and escapes. Back at the monitoring center, the alarm triggers. Anne has left her designated zone. The probation officer calls, but Anne declines the call. We flash back to 2019, the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Uni is volunteering at the border. She receives a message from her sister with a frantic warning, "Don't open the attachment." Uni opens it. It's the video of her sister being assaulted by the boy. Immediately after, a text arrives. Her sister has killed herself. Her father follows suit shortly after. Uni is devastated. She tries to leave to bury her family, but the borders are sealed due to the quarantine. Trapped and helpless, she spirals into madness, self-harming in a desperate attempt to feel something. Back in the present prison timeline, we see the inmate, Yang, the one who whispered to Uni earlier. She tries to hang herself. Uni saves her, but in her own twisted way. She slaps Yang awake and then stitches her wound without anesthesia, teaching her the harsh reality of survival. We realize Yang was the best friend of Uni's deceased sister. The web is connecting. Prosecutor Seong raids Anne's house and finds the charred remains of the clothes she tried to burn. To him, this is the smoking gun. She's destroying evidence. He immediately goes on the hunt. He confronts her lawyer, but the lawyer plays dumb. While they are talking, Anne calls the lawyer. Thinking fast, the lawyer pretends it's a client asking about overdue rent. Xiong isn't fooled. He traces the call to a nearby payphone and launches a massive neighborhood sweep, but Anne is like a ghost. She slips through their fingers once again. Anne heads straight to the hospital to warn Uni. She spots Uni talking to her high-profile lawyer. Anne waits until Uni heads to the bathroom and follows her. Uni delivers a grim warning. Someone is setting a trap for you. They know your every move. The photo Uni swallowed earlier is now a tragic loss. It was the only proof that Anne didn't kill the boy because it showed the changing wounds, and now it's gone. Suddenly, alarms blare. The police have surrounded the hospital. Chaos erupts. Anne manages to slip away in the confusion. Uni tries to flee, but a female officer grabs her. Just as Uni is about to surrender, the vengeful grandfather appears out of nowhere. Blinded by rage, he lunges at Uni and stabs her in the stomach with a sharp tool, believing he is avenging his grandson. He leaves her bleeding on the floor, thinking she's dead. But Uni is a survivor. The next day, she wakes up in a secure hospital room. Seong and Anne's lawyer are there. Uni finally drops the act. She tells them the whole truth, the blackmail, the deal, everything. She confirms she never met Tai and didn't kill him. Seong is crushed. The guilt of pushing an innocent Anne to the brink washes over him. Then, a bombshell drops. Anne uploads a video to her YouTube channel. In it, she confesses to killing her husband, Tai, but vehemently denies hurting the boy. It's a baffling, desperate move that throws everyone off balance. Meanwhile, the inmate Uni saved reveals a key clue. The dead boy's classmate visited him recently, and that classmate knows exactly who the real killer is. We flash back to before Anne posted her confession video. She visits an art museum displaying Tai's work. She stares at a painting Tai made of her and realizes something is wrong. It looks different, altered. Suddenly, Uni's high-profile lawyer approaches her, offering his help. She's about to give him her number when she glances at a news screen behind him. His face is plastered on the news. He is being investigated for massive art fraud. Anne realizes he isn't a savior. He's a crook. She runs. He chases her, realizing she knows his secret. During her escape, Anne bumps into a woman. She freezes. It's her. The masked figure from the night of the murder. The silhouette, the height, it's a match. Anne sketches the face from memory to be sure. The masked woman is the lawyer's wife. The puzzle pieces slam into place. Tai had discovered the lawyer was selling stolen art and threatened to expose him. That was the motive. Anne sends the sketch to the probation officer, who alerts Seong. The lawyer and his wife are the real villains. Back in the present, the lawyer and his wife watch Anne's YouTube confession. The wife is panicked, terrified she left traces behind. The lawyer assures her he will handle it. Anne is staking out the lawyer's house when she gets a text, "I have your daughter." It includes an address. Anne's blood runs cold. She rushes to the location. It's a trap set by the lawyer, using the grandfather as a weapon. The lawyer sent the old man the fake video Anne made, where she pretended to kill the boy, to incite his rage. The grandfather is waiting there, ready to execute Anne. Just as he is about to strike, Seong bursts in with the police. Anne grabs Seob, locks her in a safe room, and faces the chaos. Even Uni arrives. She escaped the hospital by deliberately ripping her stomach wound open to get transferred to the ICU, then slipping away. Anne hands Seob over to Seong, the only person she trusts to keep her safe, and goes to finish this alongside Uni. In the midst of the confrontation, Uni reveals her final secret to Anne. She isn't actually Uni. She stole the identity of her dead friend to exact revenge on the predators who destroyed her sister. After her friend died, the real Uni burned the body to erase the past and become a ghost. Together, they find the original unedited video Anne made in the storage unit. It proves she left the boy alive. Crucially, the footage captures a shadowy figure entering after Anne left, the real killer who finished the job. Anne and Uni go to the lawyer's house. They find him trying to use the same chemical solvent to wipe fingerprints, the exact same M.O. used in Ty's murder. Anne confronts him. "It wasn't you, was it? It was your wife," the lawyer confesses. His wife killed Ty because his accusations were going to ruin their lives. He corners Anne, threatening to kill her. Uni steps in. For the first time, she does something purely for someone else. She grabs the lawyer's hand, the one holding the knife, and plunges it into her own body. As she slumps to the floor, bleeding out, she looks at him with a twisted smile. "You're coming with me." She uses her last ounce of strength to pull the knife out and stab him. Uni dies, taking the villain with her. In the aftermath, the lawyer's wife tries to pin everything on her dead husband, but Seong is ready. He exposes her crimes, proving she was the mastermind behind Ty's murder and the stalking. Anne's false confession is thrown out as coerced under duress. The series ends on a bittersweet note. Anne travels to the hometown of the real Uni, the friend whose identity was stolen. She wears the watch the fake Uni always wore, the one she took from her dead friend before burning the body. Anne hangs the watch in a special spot, a memorial to the complicated, broken woman who saved her life in the end.